Hey guys, it's Will from Overland Tours Australia. Today we're just going to run you through the installation of our OTA 250 Prado flare kit. First step is to gather all the parts out of the box. This will include all your flares, your mud flaps, your rubber and any hardware or fitting components. Second step is to gather all your tools. So for this you're going to need a trim clip tool, a 10mm socket and a T25 torque socket with a socket wrench, as well as a pick, some scissors, a flathead screwdriver and a 3/4 inch socket with a socket wrench as well. It's also ideal if you have a torch and some alcohol and a wipe to clean the car. Third step, we're going to remove the front mud flap and flare. For this step you're going to need your trim tool along with the 10mm socket and the socket wrench. I've also turned the front wheel to allow some clearance so that I can get into the mud flap. Makes it a lot easier if you've got any large tyres. So to remove the mud flap, we're going to use a 10mm socket to remove 3 screws, the 2 on the front end and then there's 1 underneath as well. So we'll start with that. So next we're going to remove the front flare. To remove this we need to remove 7 of your push clips as well as 1 screw before we can then pull the whole flare off the guard. So to remove the flare we're just going to need the same tools from before, so a 10mm socket and a wrench along with your trim tool. So now I've got all the clips and screws off and the fender flare is ready to come off. To do this we'll start from the rear and work our way around the top edge. Just being careful that you're not going to break the flare if you do ever want to put the OE component back on. It's worth noting when removing your flares and mud flaps to keep the OE screws. You'll need these for the next few steps when reinstalling our OTA flares. So after you've removed the front fender flare, we recommend pulling out the OE clips and refitting them to the fender panel, but leaving these top 3 holes out. So we'll start from the front and refit these. And just work your way around until you've fitted them all. Now you're good to go. Once you've completed one side, repeat the same steps on the other side and get the mud flap and flare removed. So next up is the door flare. For this one you're just going to need a small trim tool remover, or I recommend using a pick. Makes it a little bit easier because these smaller clips can be quite fiddly. Right, so to remove the door flare, you just got to remove the 2 clips on the inside. Using the pick can be quite easy. You just pull them out. Once the 2 clips are removed, the door flare is then ready to be pulled off. Recommend starting from the bottom. It makes it a lot easier. Easy as that. So next we're going to remove the OE rear mud flap. To do this you're going to need your 10mm socket and the socket wrench along with your trim tool again. So next we're going to remove the OE rear flare. To do this you're going to need your pick to remove the small clips, your trim tool to remove the larger clips, and then your 10mm socket with the wrench to remove some screws. Alright, so next, once you've removed the screws and the clips from the rear flare, we can now pull it off. I recommend starting from the top side near the door and working your way around to the bottom. At the bottom you'll have some little arrow clips on the inside where you're going to need a flathead screwdriver to get inside the guard and pop them out. So these are the clips that you'll need the flathead screwdriver to remove on the rear flare. It can be a bit fiddly, but it makes it easier. After you've removed your rear flare, we recommend that you pull out 3 of the OE clips and refit them to the body of the car. This will stop dust getting into the cabin of the car. So for the rear, we'll fit them to these 3 holes, leaving these 2 empty. Next we're going to fit the OTA front fender flare to the car, but before this we need to cut our rubber to size. So in the kit you'll have a big roll of rubber. None of these are cut to size, so we're going to have to fit them first and cut them. So simply you just fit the rubber over the edge that's going to meet the car. This will be the top edge of the flare. It's quite easy to put on. You just guide it on. Run your finger along, being careful not to stretch the rubber too much, because in the colder months it will contract and you'll lose your rubber. Now once you get to the end, just use some scissors to snip them to size. So now I've gathered all the parts to fit the front flares and mud flaps. This includes the mounting hardware, any bracketry, and all the other clips as well. So next we're going to mount the mounting bracket for the flare and the mud flap. For this you'll need the supplied bolt along with a 3/4 inch socket, and we'll mount this to the underside of the car. So to mount the bracket we're going to place it on the chassis. One tag will go on the innermost hole, and then the bolt will go through this hole on the bracket and into the chassis. Next, once we've installed the bracket, we'll install all these speed clips to the fender panel as well as one to the bracket. So 5 will go onto these locations on the inner guard, as well as one on the bracket that we've just fit. Alright, so to fit the speed clip to the inner guard, you want this side facing down towards the wheel. You want to get in on the inside of the guard there and push it over the hole. So we want to repeat this another 4 times for the inner guard. Same way, make sure they're all facing the correct way down, line them up over the hole. Sweet. To fit the rest of the front flare, we want to fit these 4 metal brackets. 3 are labelled B and 1 is labelled A, which in the next video I'll show you where to put them. So starting with bracket labelled A, we want to insert that at the very front where we just put our speed clip. So you want to lay it on the outside of the inner guard, and using one of the Torx bit screws that we supplied in our kit, you want to loosely fit this bracket to that inside guard. Now after you fit bracket A, we'll fit the 3 bracket Bs, and they'll go into the other 3 locations where we just put our speed clips. So we're going to finger tighten all of these brackets or loosely fit them with your T25 Torx bit on the socket wrench. The reason that we're loosely fitting these is because we want room for adjustment when we fit our front flare back up. That's good. Okay. Yeah, so when I mean loose, just reasonably tight, but not enough that we can still move these brackets around once we fit the front flare back on. Next step is to fit 4 speed clips to the 4 metal brackets that we've just fit to the car. Same deal as before. We want that face of the speed clip to face out. Sweet. There we go. So next, once you've fitted all the metal brackets on, as well as the supplied speed nuts, we'll fit the OTA front fender flare onto the vehicle using 3 white clips supplied in the kit. You'll fit these to the insert on the inside of the flare first, with your rubber fitted to that outside edge. To then fit the front flare, you want to line it to the guard, just gently, and then guide these clips into their holes and clip them in place. Now these front flares, some of them can take a little bit of force to get that clip back in, but once they're in, they're on. So next, to fit this front flare, you're going to need 4 of the supplied Torx bit screws. Now you want to fit them through the slotted holes on the inside of the flare to the brackets where the speed nuts are. Now the reason that these brackets are loose is good to go. So with the supplied Torx bit screw, we want to fit them through the slotted hole on the flare to the speed nut on the metal bracket, and same deal, we want to just loosely fit them to the other 3 brackets as well. Alright, so after we've loosely fitted all of our Torx bit screws to the metal brackets, we want to go around and use our T25 Torx bit on the socket wrench to tighten them to the vehicle. I'd recommend starting from the front to align it with this line on the bumper guard, as well as while you're fixing it to the car, pushing the flare against the car and tightening it right up. Help out of the right way. After we've tightened this screw right up, now is a good time to push the flare in and then fully tighten that inside screw that we fitted earlier. This will make sure that bracket's in the right location if we ever take it off, and then it's nice and secure to the vehicle. After doing that, fully tighten that other screw on the outside. Sweet. So after you've done that front one, just repeat the same process with the next 3 brackets. So tightening this outside screw first, then tightening the inside one as much as we can, and then repeating on that outside one. So next, to fit the front bumper flare, we're going to use 2 of the large black push clips, 1 of the OE screws that we took out earlier, and then 1 of the white large clips as well that we'll insert to the inside mount, and then we'll fit it to this hole, ensuring this hole no longer has a plug in it. So to push this flare in, you're going to need to push it in and guide into that hole. It will clip in place, and then we'll add 1 of these push clips to secure that, and then use 1 of the OE screws. We'll refit that at the top here and refit this clip down the bottom, and we'll just fit this clip here and this one at the bottom on this little guard, lining up with the hole and clipping it back in place. And then finally, to fit off the front bumper flare, we'll use the 10mm socket on the socket wrench to fully fit this screw back in place. Right. So next we're going to fit the OTA front mud flap. To do this, you're going to need 1 of the large push clips supplied, one of the OE screws we took out earlier, as well as a Torx bit screw, along with your 10mm socket, the socket wrench, and then your T25 socket as well. So starting with the OE screw, we'll line that with the flare on the inner guard, fit that screw, and then align it to the inside guard at the bracket that we fit earlier, and fit that screw. And then we'll fit this plug. So after following the previous steps, the front flares and your front mud flap should now be fit. Repeat this on the other side and all those parts will be fit up. Yep. So next we're going to do the rear door flares. For this you're just going to need the supplied small white clips and the small black clips, as well as some rubber that we've pre-trimmed to suit this flare. To start with the installation for the rear door flare, we're going to start by inserting 5 of the supplied small white clips to the inside part of the flare. You want to guide the bottom clip in place, and this will help guide the rest of the clips in place, and then clip it to the car. Sweet. So after you've fully clipped on the door flare, you just want to use the 2 small black clips to align it with the inside holes and clip it in place. Alright, so before we install the rear fender flare, we want to install the bracket to mount it. This bracket mounts on the inside underneath here, and to do this we're going to need one of the large push clips as well as the OE screw that we took out to start, and I'll show you how to do that. So to start with fitting this bracket, we want to make sure we've got the correct labelled bracket for the right side. We want to start off with the large black push clip and ensure that the OE one has been removed. So we'll line up this hole with that hole and ensure that guard is now fit back in place, and refit that plug. Then we'll refit this screw. And to tighten this screw off, we can use the 10mm socket on our socket wrench, keep that back in place, and then we want to fit one of the supplied speed nuts to this part as well. Alright, so after we've fitted that rear bracket in place, next is to clip our rear flare in place. So to do this you're going to need 2 of the small white clips supplied in our kit. Fit them to the inside of the flare, and then ensure that you've got the rubber fitted and cut to size as well. And then we'll guide it onto the car gently as well, ensuring that we're under that bracket that we've just fit. Guide these 2 clips in place and clip them back to the car. So with our flares, the inside clip is slotted. This gives you room for adjustment to ensure that this gap between your door jamb is correct. Once you've got the flare fitted up, we can now fit our speed clips in place over the holes that have been cut out in the flare. To finish off the rear flare, you're going to need the OE screw that we took out at the start, one of the black supplied push clips and one of the small push clips as well. Starting with the smaller push clip, we'll insert it up the front here. Then the large black push clip, and then the OE black screw. One last screw to put in on this rear flare, which will be one of the supplied Torx screws that will then fit to the speed clip we fit on the bracket earlier. And then using our T25 Torx bit, we'll fix it to the underside of the car. So to finish off our kit, we'll install the OTA rear mud flap. To do this, you're going to need 3 of the supplied Torx bit screws and then 1 of the large black plugs. So to start, line up your mud flap with the speed clips that we fitted earlier to the flare. Loosely fit the top one, and then with your large black clip, it's easiest to then fit that on the inside guard. Sweet. Then using your T25 Torx bit, go around and secure the mud flap to the car. So once you've completed fitting one side of the rear flares and mud flaps, repeat on the next side and your kit's complete.